thanks for watching. Today I want to tell you about riveting. Now this is what we practice here at Halstead, is we teach the students how to rivet. And I want to just go over it on a whiteboard first. I will go over to the bench and show you how to do it in a minute, but for right now I just wanted to show you here first. It's easier. So the first thing you want to do, now riveting is a cold connection. You don't need a torch to do it. It requires no soldering. And the whole purpose of riveting is to just join two or more pieces of metal together. So let me show you. When you first start riveting, the first thing you're going to need to do is choose your material. Now here we always choose copper to practice on. So we'll do copper wire, copper sheet. And so today I put the list up here. We're using 14 gauge copper wire, number 51 drill bit, and 20 gauge, 2 copper sheets 20 gauge. And first thing you want to do is choose your material. Now you don't have to use the same wire and drill bit we use, but you have to make sure it's a snug fit. So after you drill your holes, that wire has to fit in there very snugly. You don't want it to be loose or anything like that. So choose your material. The next thing you're going to do is drill your holes. Now I always suggest drill holes one sheet at a time. Don't drill through 2 sheets. It can slip or anything. So your best bet is to drill all 4 corners in 1 sheet. And then place your top sheet, the one you drilled on, onto the bottom sheet and mark your holes with a permanent marker. That way you can line them up already, and then you go over and you drill the bottom sheet. The third thing you want to do is you want to shape your rivet in a bench vise. So take about a 1.5 inch piece of wire, of your copper wire, and you want to stick that up about 1 millimeter above your bench vise jaws. And go ahead and you want to make sure that the top of the wire is straight on both ends. Make sure both ends are straight across. Go ahead and put it in 1 millimeter above your bench vise. And what you're going to do is you're going to take a ball peen hammer, and on the round end, of course, you're going to sit there and you're going to lightly hammer it. And what you want to do is you want to create like a nail head shape. So you want it to be evenly formed around that wire into a circle. Because what it needs to do is when you drill your holes and you slip that wire in, you can't let it slip all the way through. So you want it to be perfectly rounded. And that's the part that takes a lot of practice, but you will get the hang of it. I always suggest practice, practice, practice before you move on to sterling silver. Copper's super cheap. So practice all day long with that. And because I don't cold connect a lot myself, I'll always do a couple practice runs before I do a cold connection, just to make sure I have it all down again and, you know, I'm good to go. So next thing and the last thing you're going to do is you're going to set your rivet. So after you've made the nail head shaped wire, you're going to place it through your 2 pieces of copper sheet, flip it upside down, put it on top of a bench block, and now you want to cut off the excess wire that you have. Remember, it was 1.5 inches long, and this you're going to cut down a lot. And then you only want to stick 1 millimeter above that too, just like on the bench vise. Because if you have excess wire and you have to shape it down, usually all the wire will move to one side, it'll fall over while you're shaping it. So you don't want very much, it doesn't take very much at all. So always try and remember 1 millimeter is all you'll need. So you put on a bench block upside down, and then now you're lightly going to tap it again with a ball peen and shape this end. And your 2 wires will be, your 2 sheets will be joined together. So let me go over to the bench and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, now that we're sitting at the bench, I want to go ahead and show you how to rivet. I have 2 pieces of metal I'm going to be using for this, and they're both scrap pieces. And I've drilled the hole in the 4 corners. One is a piece of brass, one is a piece of copper. And I also have 14 gauge wire, about 1 inch, 1.5 inches, and I also have the ball peen hammer. I'm going to use a bench vise, and I'm going to use a bench block and a sandbag. So let me go ahead and show you how to shape the top. So you want to take your copper wire, and what you're going to do basically is you're going to make a head pin. That's your whole goal. So you're going to put it inside of your bench vise, and you only want about 1 millimeter sticking up, so just a tiny amount. And you're going to spread that metal out using your ball peen hammer, just enough so that it prevents the wire from dropping all the way through the holes you've made in your sheet. I'm quickly going to use a needle nose file where I just cut it just to straighten up the top. And you can use sandpaper or anything else. I just like to shape it up a little bit first so it doesn't have any weird cuts in it, because it will show up when you try and hammer it down. You want it to just be as smooth and round as you can so that you have a new piece to work with. And I just have a tiny amount sticking up from that bench vise. Now I'm going to use the ball peen hammer to create the head of the rivet. And when you're using any hammer in the jewelry studio, you definitely don't want to put your finger on the top of the handle. I got into that habit, of course, just around the house, nailing stuff. You don't want to do that. Get out of that habit, because if it bounces back, it can really hurt you or break your finger or something. So just let the hammer do all the work and hold it loosely. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to lightly tap the top and around the edges of the wire. And I'm moving the metal and spreading it out, and I'm doing it very slowly so that the head of the rivet will be shaped. Should have a better shape to it. You don't want it off to one side or anything, although you can clean it up if you don't like, maybe there's too much metal on one side. That's fine. You could just use sandpaper or something to clean it up. But the key is to get it right now. And if you practice with wire, just take your time and practice. It's well worth it. Okay, when you're done, you just pull it out. And let's look at it. Okay, so I'll go ahead and straighten it up a little bit. In case it got a little crooked or something, you can just quickly take some pliers and just straighten it up. The wire. Now drop it through your 2 metal plates. And you want to make sure that it catches and doesn't slip through. And this one won't. I put on the brass plate so you can hopefully see it. It's holding nicely, and it's a tiny one. And you can change the size of how big you want or how little you want the rivet head. It doesn't matter. That's up to you. Okay, now what you're going to do is go ahead and get your bench block and put this upside down with the rivet head you just made on the bottom. And use some wire cutters, and you're just going to cut it down at the bottom of the sheet, close to the bottom of the sheet. Again, you want 1 millimeter at this point too. So just be careful when you cut it and leave enough to spread the metal out, but you don't want to leave too much or the rivet will bend over. The wire will actually bend over and stuff, and excess will make the head larger and stuff like that. So you don't want to do that. And now go ahead and do the same thing you did on your bench vise, except very carefully just tap this one down on your metal. And again, you want to hit from the top, but then you want to kind of work your way around the sides as well. And like I said, just take your time with it. As you practice, you'll get really good and you won't hit your sheet metal and stuff. Okay, now I've created the one on the bottom. And as you can see, I did not tighten it down. This will spin. And the reason I did that was because I have 3 more rivets to go. And if you tighten this down and it's off center a little bit, you won't be able to get the rivet through the hole. So you want to make sure you have just a little bit of wiggle room. And at the end of it, go ahead and set all 4 of them tightly. And you want to go, of course, in the changing the tire style. So you'll want to go here, 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 and here. But just, I would wait to tighten them down until you're done and you've set all 4, and then go ahead and run back through and tighten all of them together after they're all fitting and you're happy with it. Okay, so far I showed you the standard rivet, which we did on the Vise. Now I want to show you the flush rivet. Now a flush rivet is invisible. So your goal is to make an invisible rivet that you can't see when your piece is completed. Now this one's really hard to do, so practice, please. And this is what you do. So you're going to drill your first hole just like on the standard rivet. You're going to drill just 1 straight hole. Now your second step is to take bigger drill bit and go ahead and drill out just the top of your piece here and the bottom here. And your third thing is to set the rivet. So what you're going to do is you're going to leave 1 millimeter of wire exposed again, just like on the standard rivet. But this time you want the wire to come down and fill in this gap. So you're going to hit the wire dead center because you want it to come down and just spread out like this and fill in this gap. Flip it over and do the other side. And then you're going to file the extra wire off. Now, this is great because you won't see the rivet when you're done on your finished piece. However, this takes a lot of practice. I can't strain it enough to you. Just make sure that you're practicing it. And what will happen if you don't fill it in correctly, as you go to file or sand it down to make it flush with your piece, you'll see holes start coming up where the rivet didn't fill in. You'll see gaps. So anyway, just practice with this one. It's a great technique to learn. It's a great rivet to do, but again, just practice with it. Okay, so the last rivet I want to show you is the pre-headed rivet. Now this rivet's a lot of fun. You can make fancy shapes and stuff, and I'll show you how. So you're going to drill your holes just like before, pretend like you're setting a standard rivet. And the next thing you're going to do is you're going to actually heat your wire with a torch. So put it in a third hand. Here's my third hand. Here's your wire. You're going to add a flame to the bottom of it, and it's going to ball up that wire. A lot of you have done it to make ball pins and stuff. So that's basically what you're making, is a ball pin. Now your third thing is an option. So you can keep the round rivet head if you want as a design element on your piece. Or you can go ahead and make fun things by shaping this, filing and shaping it. You can make hearts, triangles, moons. There's just an array of shapes you can make. And then you can add that to your, as a part of a design element on your piece. Now, then you're going to set it just like the standard rivet. However, if you leave it, if it's flat, no problem. But if you leave it as a round ball head, then what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to protect that when you go to set your rivet on the back end. And what you're going to need to do is you can use leather to kind of build up around that ball, and so that it doesn't get crushed when you set your rivet up here. Or you can use like a piece of wood with a little hollow part to protect it, but you need it to be steady, you need to be sturdy, but you want to keep that shape. So it's a little tricky, so you have to get creative, and that's only if you leave it as a round. If you go ahead and shape it like one of those, no problem, just set it like a standard rivet. So I hope you learned a lot today. Thank you for watching. If you want to find more articles, go ahead and look at on halsteadbee.com and find the blog article up at the right hand corner, and you'll find hundreds of articles on everything from soldering techniques to business articles. Anyway, thank you for watching. Have a great one.